Warning: the following contains content intended for older audiences and may contain strong language. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good evening and welcome to another vivifying episode of Taboo Talks, the place to be for free-flowing, candid, and deep conversations about the topics that we need to be talking about, but still ruffle conservative societal feathers. I'm your host, Drea Renault, and I must say that I am especially enthused to introduce tonight's topic. I'm dressed for the part, right? Right? No?
Concur.
Concur? Yeah. Okay. Not just because we have a special guest with us, but because I have been looking forward to the position we're currently in as a country on this matter. While still controversial, open discussions about marijuana have become less and less taboo as people's sentiments shift in favor of legalization. Those supporting the legalization of marijuana say it will add millions to the economy, create hundreds of jobs, free up scarce police resources, and stop the big disparities in marijuana enforcement. They contend that marijuana is less harmful than alcohol and that adults should have the right to use it if they wish. Opponents of legalizing marijuana say it will increase teen use and lead to more medical emergencies, including traffic accidents, for example, from driving while high. And they argue that revenue from legalization will not justify the costs in increased hospital visits, addiction treatment, and lost productivity. They say that marijuana use harms the user physically and mentally, and that its use should be strongly discouraged and certainly not legalized. Well, whether you are for or against doesn't matter much, since recreational marijuana will be legal in Belize soon. There is, however, still the need to educate ourselves on what legalization will mean in our everyday life. So tonight, we are somewhat departing from our usual format, since we have a big-time guest in the studio tonight. We want to use this opportunity to provide valuable information to our viewers along with our usual spirited discourse with the aim of expanding our collective perspective. Let me first welcome to the set of Taboo Talks the Minister of Home Affairs and New Growth Industries, Honorable Kareem Musa. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Thank you for having me on.
Isn't he so polite tonight? We also have quite a cross-section of panelists tonight to ensure we get diverse views on the topic. Please introduce yourselves. I'm going to start over here with the beautiful young lady. That is also like almost in my,
Yeah, we discussed that as soon as I walked in the green.
I knew it. You knew what the assignment was.
Then by the drop off, I show me have red, green, and gold.
They look like they come from John's. Like they look like they come from Raleigh.
Boys.
Yeah. We're not hold against them though.
Okay,
I don't
That's
think
so
so.
cute.
I can't wear green because of the green screen, man.
Okay. Yeah, gotcha.
Okay.
Well,
Traumatized.
let me introduce myself. My name is Sharon Marin Lewis. I am an author, entrepreneur. I guess I'd say I'm also enthusiastic supporter of marijuana in all its forms. So that's me.
Okay, I'm Ras Ruben. I represent the Rastafari community. We have a church, 7 Enoch. Also, I'm a chef, a vegan chef. I own Vegan Bites. So I try to promote our culture in all aspects. And I'm a marijuana advocate.
All right.
So why we.
Things seem one-sided.
Yeah.
Where are the opponents?
He no smoke nothing.
Yeah, man.
Who are you?
Hi,
I don't know you.
Patrick Perfeet.
Oh, hi, Patrick Perfeet.
I'm a tattoo artist. I also host a show on Calabria.
Hey, that he?
I never you guys. Oh my God.
Hey, nice to meet you, man.
Welcome. To the
I need an
Calabria
autograph
Man, you
before
did say you had a big guest.
He's not a big time
Yes.
guest, not you.
And I'm a casual smoker.
Okay.
I'm also an advocate.
Right.
I'm not enthusiastic about it.
You're not a wear green like
Because I
me.
don't know, man. I just as my friends call marijuana weakling.
Weakling.
So, like,
Okay.
so sadly, I'm not enthusiastic smoker.
But you will be after this, maybe.
No,
You want rasp around the corner.
No, it just depends. I tell you, man, like I have to just like I got a ceiling when my grade there. If I go high grade, like yeah,
Too
man.
much.
Tap out.
Yeah, I can't handle indica. Like my cousin
Okay,
say,
you go sleep.
indica equals in the couch, right?
Understood.
So sativa, enthusiastic, very enthusiastic about sativa.
Okay. All right. Well, to start off tonight, before we stress out Mr. Musa,
But that grilling, man.
before we stress out Mr. Musa, I will start off by asking the panel to share their views on the impending passing of legal recreational marijuana use. If I may, and I know you already stated, where you are. I want to know what your actual stance is.
Okay.
And what's your personal relationship with this what's your personal relationship with this controversial substance? Really and truly.
I don't want to go first.
Really and truly.
Really, actually.
Really,
All right. Like I mentioned, all right. So when it comes to the legalization part, my stance on it personally, I am for it, like I mentioned earlier. Where I think the controversy lies is recently it has been classified as a strong drug, and you hear a lot of the people out there like we're enthusiastic about it. They talk about it like have any negative sides to it. And there are, of course, like kind of habit forming and all of that stuff. That's and that the part where, to me, come down to the person itself,
Right.
And I think you just have to kind of maybe look on the world stage, see what's working, see what's not working. Because this day and age, information is out there. So the research on it should be already,
Readily
the
available.
results, readily available.
Yeah.
The results are already out there and everything. So where I feel strongly about it as a country, historically, Belize kind of always they lag behind and kind of they follow everybody else to do. And I think with the legalization of marijuana, we should take a proactive, approach to it because we see it what happen. We know it happen, and I think we should have capitalized when it comes to like stuff like the economy, like I mentioned earlier, and when it comes to like tourism. Because if you bring up Amsterdam, nobody know nothing else about Amsterdam
Other than-
except the fact that you could go there and
there's a red light.
so and a red light district. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you hear Amsterdam, you're like, oh yeah, you could go smoke there. You don't know nothing else about there.
Right.
Or maybe that was me, right? But I think we could capitalize, man, especially in the Caribbean, where climate good for grow it and all and everything. So it kind of fit the vibe, go up on the island, chill and lay hammock or
Right.
joint,
Right.
So like that's my stance when it comes to it. Like I really think that we should take one proactive approach to it and
be
try,
ahead of the curve,
yeah, get
as
ahead of the curve
opposed
and
to-
capitalize on it. It happens, so we just, we should just kind of jump on it if you want to say it like that.
All right. Thank you for the answer. I feel like I would want to move on and ask a very important question. And I want to ask you, have you ever felt discriminated against for your use of marijuana?
Well, let me say this, right? The fact that they are trying to do anything to take marijuana from where it was to where it should be is a good thing for the world, especially for Belize. People really don't understand cannabis because it has been discriminated against all this time over 80 years, right? So any steps towards where it should be, I want to say where it should be because none of us don't really understand cannabis and where it should be, right? Is a good thing. So I applaud this government for what they do, regardless of who wants to say what. because Mr. Barrow left we in a position where we had to make a fight over weed. You understand that? So everybody say Mexican, they have all of this weed and everybody want to sell this weed and they start fight over this weed. I lose a lot of friends. You understand? So any step towards betterment, that's a good thing. All my life, I had a smoke herb from a youth or a juvenile. All my life I've been discriminated against because of marijuana, especially when I put on my covenant, because as a policeman, they didn't even have to see weed. When the policeman, they don't have nothing to do, they pass by the Rasta man in their yard for go see if they could bust in some weed, because they know that we always have weed. So we not just get discriminated against, we get stigmatized to the point that our philosophy could not have even grown. We as priests were being targeted while we are trying to grow a congregation. How could that even work? So I don't just feel discriminated because of the herb, right? But because it's our sacrament, I feel discriminated because that's like a religious offense the way how they had been treating us for herbs, right?
Amen. Okay.
I want to add something to that,
I
though.
feel like I've been at a church just now.
I know. I follow it by saying that the most important thing to me is even though I started out saying I'm an enthusiastic supporter of marijuana, we are on the cusp of change if we do it right. And I recall when we discovered oil, I was a big fool. I made around my house, the laugh, I was excited. I thought that every single home in our country would feel the change that oil brought to Belize. Here we are in 2022, I don't feel it. As a matter of fact, gas prices are sky high. So when it comes to marijuana, the opportunity for us is real. It is needed, it is important. If we mess it up, we're gonna ruin a lot of lives for a lot of years. And it's more than just getting a joint and smoking it and being connected, like Ras said, to the cannabinoids. It's also the economic change that it could bring where we will impact lives. And that's what's important to me. So when I hear legalization, I'm not jumping up. I'm not screaming. I'm just watching, and I'm ready to input my concerns and my opinions about it. But the most important thing to me is the economic change. Will we see an impact that betters the lives of the Belizean people?
Lovely. I feel like I want to go back a little bit to the prejudices, though.
Yes.
Just because I feel like Minister want to tell me about the economic changes. He attack money for me. He attack money for me. I don't know about money.
You know what I want to say?
I know what you want to say. I hear you before. Just kidding.
If
No,
I
okay.
could add some for the same prejudices.
Yeah.
Prejudices are terrible.
No, but before you do that,
Yeah,
I
go
just feel like we can't ignore those prejudices.
Oh,
And that's
yeah.
why I feel like it's so important, because I can recall a time where an elitist ex-colleague of mine, right? I'm not calling no name because I can't. So she blatantly just told me, and this is around 2017 when we were allowed the 10 grams. And the possibility of it being legal was being talked about and promoted, etc. She watched me and she said, that our poor black people thing. You know what I mean? She blatantly said that.
Yeah.
And then further, because I've been working in tourism marketing for a long time, and I said, you realize the whole market, like the opening of the market that we have now, with this niche. And then she goes, yeah, but they're not the type of people that we want, yeah. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I vex. I the office swing chair is swing me bit because I say, oh, I can't say nothing because,
I hear you.
But that is a prejudice that a lot of these people, on the top of our society feel. Like, this our people are poor, lazy people of color problem or drug,
I get
right? What want to say about that?
All right, so this is exactly along the lines of what I mentioned.
Yeah.
When it comes to the psychological part, you always track it back to the inception, right? So this is how this thing me introduced to them. So her opinion, she never born with her opinion. She grew up and then a program not into she.
Right.
And that where we really the fight against. Because at the end of the day, when it comes down to, like they always use the example, the comparison of like weed and alcohol. And we know alcohol,
Do.
you know, you know,
Yeah.
they countless there's a real, like we mentioned earlier, the traffic accidents and everything.
Yeah.
So when it comes to it, if you really watch all of that, the evidence show that, you know, at the end of the day, if you really watch which one need to be illegal, it shouldn't be alcohol, right?
Right.
Technically. I'm not saying it should be kind of like maybe but like and wine or what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right, but like what I say is you just kind of come down to the programming and like they teach she that, so she just they repeat where she feel correct to she. Because even so with the tattoo thing, nowadays you're seeing a lot of people, you know, getting tattoos and thing, you know. But originally,
Yeah.
it was done as a tribal thing in I think the Philippines, if I'm not mistaken, and the only people me exposed to that my parents, you know, then they all about on the sea. So they see it, they're like, yo, that look kind of cool. They get a tattoo. Then so the introduction like, to the West, I'm like, oh, they are pirates. They are bad people, tattooed. So the original program like, oh, okay, I see a tattoo, attach it to a bad person.
Yeah.
Right.
And then now, this day and age, obviously, you know, tattoos up on all time high.
They say
So I
one
think
and one
that-
make two, no?
Yeah, you know what I mean? So like that, like to me, that, like the same idea happened. Like the inception, it was that, like, all right then, they are all of them pick me, kind of grew up there, said to themselves, all right, this thing bad, only bad boy, the smoke and everything. So they grew up in that mentality, not ever trying it for themselves, just kind of hearing like from a third party, like this is what marijuana represents.
Right.
Not knowing all the, you know, the other cool thing like munches and like, come on.
Yeah.
Like,
I will add
nice,
one thing to the
man.
prejudices, right? I think it's important, Drea. The prejudice is not unwarranted because we don't know weed, marijuana, don't know everybody know how to consume it or use it.
And
So
I
that just
think,
like
yeah.
with food, they have some people where overdo it with food.
It's still a substance.
It's still a
And
substance.
it still needs to be controlled in some type of way, right?
Totally
So
agree, yeah.
when you talk like people just think people who smoke or use marijuana in a way just lazy. There are some people who have that effect on them and they don't know if we control themselves.
Listen, if I wake up and I wake and bake, I know they do nothing the rest of the day. I know they do nothing like I could
See,
I could
you don't
be
wanna be
creative,
people.
but no meeting,
No action.
no try to clean house, no kind of run errand. Nope, I'm staying right at home, music the blast, and I do something, right?
Yes,
Low
and,
theory, no
and
practical.
depends on the day for some people. They could have got a meeting with a joint in their hand if they have won the
Right.
meeting, you know what I mean? It depends on the day.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm going to tell her,
But
right?
then we're talking
There's
talking
the-
abuse.
Yes,
Yeah,
the-
yeah.
We're talking abuse.
It's
We're
not just
talking
abuse.
use.
I know somebody, let me say this, right? I know somebody who smoked marijuana. I thought boy about his surname. Right? So I know somebody who smoked marijuana and that had a very bad effect on that individual. Right? That individual start to hallucinate.
Oh yeah.
You know, it start to, want to do a lot of things. And
Psychosis.
yeah, that happened, and you can't say that with a particular
Happens
herb he
to the
smoked
best of
because
us.
he was not alone, or he or she was not alone, right? They may smoke with somebody else, so
Yeah.
it never have the effect on the other person. So I do believe that there are people who have certain tolerances that could have them fall into that category that we see people being discriminated
Yeah.
against.
Different body chemistry is
Yeah.
really.
Me personally, I'm gonna tell you, I did abuse marijuana at some point. Like, you go through different things and sometimes you use it as a crutch.
Right.
So if you're not spiritual, like
You
where Rasta-
self-medicate.
Yes,
Right.
where Rasta talk about is real. So you have to know where to deal with
Yeah.
when you are a marijuana user, and yeah, you have to know.
So let me take this conversation. It's the last point before I make Minister talk.
I just enjoyed it.
But we want to hear from you.
So going back to what Ras said about marijuana really and truly being a cultural, spiritual, sacred thing, right?
Yes.
Going back to that, I wonder how the practicality and the legalizing and the, well, I smoke weed for myself and the self-medication, how does that overshadow what it truly is? Because I can talk about my personal experience when it comes to my marijuana use. I have abused it, you know, when I'm like, let's say, going through depression, or I don't feel like I'm at my optimal like state of mind. I use it every day to numb myself and, you know.
Yeah.
But then there are times where I use it productively, where I say I am meditating, I am using it with more meaning than I just want to be high, right?
I don't think you abuse it. I think sometimes you need more medication. No, but be realistic, right? If you go through what depressed time
depressive state,
in your life, right? And you lean for alcohol, you know what happened to you?
You're more depressed.
But if you lean for herb, you'll find a way out.
Which has been my experience.
This is
100%.
why, but what you do is you allow you to heal. Because the healing happen when you slow down, and that's why I tell you, most of the healing happen when you slow down, stop, sleep, rest, fast, all these things, the healing.
But
the
we see it
healing
as
happen.
a stop.
Yes.
Yeah.
But some marijuana, sometimes you might think that you abuse it. The abuse why I think come in is when you say they mix herb a lot, right? And when you mix herb with tobacco, you don't see the tobacco addiction. So you find that in the streets, most men smoke Fanta and they smoke Fanta weed back to back to back and can't get high. But they know when they can't get high, that way the Fanta high and the herb high, they clash. So you chase one nicotine.
Yeah.
But if you
Actually,
smoke herb,
That make nothing
herb
sense.
are shut you down. You cannot smoke herb back to back to back to back. King.
But just to springboard on what Patrick was saying, I know you want to talk to me about the money.
I
I don't know why.
I want
but-
to have money. You know,
yeah,
I
but-
need a green. You
but-
can't get half.
Just to springboard by where Patrick raised earlier and when Ras and Sharon raised, the prejudices of it. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Hattieville prison.
No, I
But I don't think if you go there, you won't find any clear-skinned individual that has been convicted for marijuana possession or marijuana trafficking. You won't find that. And so that, to me, is the worst prejudice of them all, that it is specifically targeting the black population of the country. And like what Ras said, if they can't get you to do something, they want to try not plant, but they would try to use that in order to get you behind bars.
Rodeo.
You know?
Right.
It's kind of like the O.J. Simpson thing. They couldn't convict him for murder, so they convict him for theft of a football, you know, that kind of thing. So it really is something that we're trying to change, and thankfully we have seen now where there is that dramatic shift, because there used to be a prison population of 1,600 inmates. That's down to under 1,000 now. And it's simply because of that. We're not seeing imprisonment anymore for cannabis possession. And to me, that's a huge accomplishment. That compounded with the expungement of criminal records. And I want your viewers to know that, that we are going to actively expunge criminal records for possession. That's a huge part of our
I feel
platform.
like we should clap.
You know.
I don't got a record, but that's nice.
Right.
If I had it, I'm happy.
Absolutely. So,
Retroactive, basically.
Yeah, man.
so
I love
like, give us, broke it down for we. What does, because we did holla about it, legalize it, this, we did holla about it. Broke it down to me. What does the legalization of recreational use mean?
Okay, so
What does it mean for people like us,
Yes.
right?
okay, so if I were to combine all of the knowledge that you all just shared, because it's important knowledge and I have to try to unpack that, but I'll unpack it in terms of a continuum. When you listen to Ras say, you know, we aren't necessarily where we want to be with legalization. What he's saying is that a day will come, I will predict 20 years from now, where government not got no control over cannabis anymore. The same way alcohol
Just
can
free
be
flow.
on the shelf, you can go in the store and buy your cannabis. That day will come. But when you look at this continuum, the way the world is going, and it is because, principally because of all the propaganda that started with cannabis over 100 years ago, that now you have to go step by step by step on this continuum. So you see states in America going to medicinal first. Then after medicinal, a year later, they go recreational. And then eventually it will get to that point that Russ is saying that it will be full legalization. But we in Belize, because we have decriminalized cannabis in 2017, we could now bypass that medicinal aspect, which is, by the way, a very important discussion that nobody is talking about yet, but I look forward to it, the medicinal components of this plant. It's so healthy, so wealthy, this, you know, and nobody's talking about it. So, but the point is that we are now going to adult use cannabis, and so we're not there at full legalization. What we are legalizing is the industry around it. And so we are creating all of these licenses, and so you do have to get a license in order to cultivate. You do need a license to be a dispensary, to be a security provider, to be a consumption lounge. And that's another thing, because I heard you discussing smoking out in public. That is still not going to be legal, smoking in public. You have to still smoke at a private residence or in a consumption lounge. And it does not mean that you can have any amount of cannabis either. It's now 28 grams. And I know people might think that's a big jump. It really isn't. 28 grams is not that big a jump. And so there are certain things that we still have to understand, that it's not full-blown legalization. We're not there yet, so to speak.
It's not a free-for-all.
No, no. So there's still an industry that is going to be created around it. And whereby the vision, and I have to thank Ras Ruben for being a part of our team, Ras Ruben, our consultant, Alex Lavin, just to give us that global perspective on where Belize will fit in all of this. It really is, one, for the government to be able to make a revenue from it, to be able to tax it. Two, to allow the small man, I don't like the term small man, but really and truly our farmers that are out there right now, who are supposedly doing it illegally, they can then be mainstream, they can get into this industry and take part in it. And we are one of the few countries in the world that actually now has a social equity license. And I can tell you the US, a lot of the states are now following suit, because they realize that, listen, it's not just about big business, this thing has a social impact as well. The people who have been farming all these years are not given that opportunity, and that's not fair. They did it at a time when it was illegal. So why not grandfather them in? Because this is really their industry. So it is for the government to benefit, the small man, so to speak, to benefit, and of course businesses. I do see a day, and I think Patrick was the one that raised it, that there is this window, very small window at this point, for the government to make money. I would say maybe 5 to 10 years for us to make good money off of cannabis. But the moment it goes federal in the United States of America, and Mexico, by the way, is going to go federal shortly as well, you're talking big, big companies, Marlboro, all of them, no, mess with cigarette again. All of them going cannabis, every one of them, because then you're able to bank it. That's the key. Once you're able to bank it, all of these other companies, they're already gearing up. So again, Belize stands to lose when these big companies come on the scene, Pfizer, Marlboro, all of them that will get into this industry because it's so lucrative. So I don't want to see us 10 years from now saying we abandon the local growers because Marlboro got a wicked product. No, so going Marlboro, you know. We have to stop thinking of ourselves as an importer nation. So we have to be like other countries and protect our local grown product and protect our local farmers. That's what I hope we can continue to do for the years to come.
And kind of let Marlboro know, if you want to sell marijuana, you need to get it from us. You need to call us on.
Marijuana.
Yeah.
Marijuana.
Listen, nothing that piss me off more when I say what news story on Love FM. Police find marijuana trees and burn it down.
Yeah,
I get so upset.
At the same time when we are trying to create this industry. But let me say this.
I really have get upset.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you just like watch it and just like,
Like,
what the
really?
hell?
We even report this news,
Listen,
man.
I don't comment on nothing except those things on the media. Perhaps I go comment on all of them things and say, oh, find my name there.
But
And
listen,
But I want to make an important point when we're speaking of that, and Ras can chime in on this as well. When we see plantations being burnt, we have to think of it as well. one, in the future, we'll ask ourselves the question, did it have a license? Because you have to have a license. Two, is the product that they're growing meeting the standards of today? Because we're not only offering marijuana to locals, but it's going to be for tourists as well. And so when the tourists come into the country, you have to ensure you have a safe product. What does a safe product mean?
Exactly.
It means you don't have pesticides in your product, it doesn't have the powdery mildew, it doesn't have mold, that kind of thing that can affect your lungs. And so this is a whole other component of the industry that the government will have to create, which is the enforcement arm, the cannabis monitoring unit. That will be comprised of members from BAHA, members from the forensics department, and members from the police who will have testing equipment to test your product to make sure it meets those very serious standards, because you cannot, like I said, be offering anything to the locals or the tourists.
Right, you can't give a tourist moonshine or beer.
Correct, correct. You can't just
house.
import one bottle where you don't even know where the in there. It doesn't have any labels. Doesn't.
So you did try to tell me if I want to take my acre where I got right, plant some cannabis plants, I want need to have certain things in place as a regular person.
Yes.
So I compete with people who don't have that in place.
Yes, but you will have to have it.
Yeah.
It's just creating
So-
that standard.
so
I'm saying
money
the
though.
product itself has to meet that standard. The
Let's
product.
talk, since we're talking standards now, like, let's talk money. So you said, like, the small man, like the average Joe, we all have to have a license. What are the costs on a license, basically?
Well, the social equity license will not be the cost of the cultivation license for the other businesses. Now, when a business is coming, first of all, make this very clear. I can't give a license. The minister, my phone will not stop ringing.
Oh, because I
Ask me
message
for
you
license.
instant.
Yes,
Okay,
I
okay,
cannot
okay.
give a license. And
Thanks to clear that up.
there is a commission.
call him, guys.
I am not on the commission.
Don't call
We're
him,
giving
man.
out licenses.
Left the man alone.
So that commission will decide the regulations for the industry. What will be the cost per cultivation license, and what will be the very nominal cost for a social equity license, which, like I said, is not for these big companies, but rather for our local farmers. Local farmers as well can get a cultivation license if they wish, but we have to have that avenue available to them for the social equity. And so those things are what will be meted out in the next month, the regulations. We will then introduce those regulations. Application forms for the many licenses will be issued. You fill out your applications, you submit it to the commission, and they will then decide on the licenses.
Okay. So now, like, there's a social equity license. I still don't know how much it can be, because I personally want my personal license. And then you said I want my license. So
I'm putting a word for you. But
listen, I want one letter of recommendation.
I heard.
Because my product can be very stylish. Anyway, so we're saying, okay, we're going to go from 10 grams to what,
28 grams.
28 grams now. We could carry that.
Yes.
No public smoking,
No.
right? Everything having to do with making money means you have to be licensed or, like, legally bound.
Correct.
I have PTSD when it comes to, like, gold standard. Like, I remember, you have to have certain blah, blah, blah for people to come here.
Me too, I have it.
Will it be like that? Because it's kind of like, you can't tell me one tourist at the walk key cocker and you buy and sell it to one like it done happen already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So what will happen is that you will have to actually keep data. If you're a small social equity license, you will have the the cannabis monitoring unit come to your premises, count the number of plants, do the testing on your plants, all of that, and then actually sanction it for sale.
Okay.
And so there is a system that is called a track and trace system. And so we track the plant from the moment you as a cultivator plant it up to the point that it reaches the shelf. And so when you take your phone and you can scan it, it's like blockchain technology. It will show you which farm it came from. It will tell you what percent THC is in there. These are the types of standards that I'm speaking of. And it doesn't have mold or mildew and that kind of thing. So that is the kind of standard that you'll have to hit. That's where the market is. Like I said, it has to be a safe product that you're producing. So you're thinking, like, what happens if you just plant and you go give the tourists?
Right.
In order for you to have done that, you had to have passed your tests with the cannabis monitoring unit. And if you pass that test, then you get to go on the shelf in a dispensary. So you as a cultivator cannot sell directly to a tourist.
Okay.
You have to put it to the dispensary.
All right. Okay, so then my next question will be, can foreigners have these licenses?
Yes, they can. But we imposed a requirement in the law that every company that applies has to have a minimum, not a maximum, a minimum of 30% Belizean participation. And so you can have 90%, 30%.
30%. Okay.
So you can have maybe a big company come in with 70% and a Belizean owning 30% of it. But again, preference will be given to Belizeans who will want to do this. So if it's a 100% Belizean company, of course we'll look more favorably to that company.
Right. And then the whole premise behind it being recreational means that the tourists can smoke the thing, panelly swing,
On a private property,
on a
yes,
private,
if the hotel allows.
it could do it, like it could do it, as long as it's purchased from
Yes.
a licensed dispensary.
Yes.
Yes.
So I feel like I like take out the air out of this thing because there's
actually
like
kinda.
restrictions.
No,
to me.
you
But-
never can need for hear from you.
Yes, but you see, we are a very conservative society. And so there are certain things that we have to put in place to make sure it's not, like you said, the wild, wild west. When you're saying smoking at a property, that's fine if a hotel allows it. But we don't want to be a destination where cannabis is everywhere, smoked everywhere. It is that we want to be a cannabis accessible destination whereby
Right.
you can buy it safely, you can buy it responsibly, you know you're getting a good product. And you can smoke it, like I said, in your house or in your
Right.
room or what have you on private property.
Yeah.
So it's not everywhere because I always get that complaint that when people go to New York, they say, man, people who don't like to smoke say,
Yeah.
man, all they do is smell weed everywhere you go.
Yeah.
That's not what we want to
That
create.
name true.
I'm just saying that's a complaint that I always
So
get.
yeah, when my hair did it and I go out and then I come
That
back and
is
my
not-
hair smell like weed, I'm like,
What part you to go? Where are you going? Brownsville?
To the places.
Brownsville?
Free
Like most say, I don't know.
to the nice place where it's allowed. No, okay. So I think the novelty of being able to, like, you know, we have our lead blunt right here, so I think it's not legal right now.
It's not
It-
And I said
that's-
for who?
that's- and that-
And I said
yeah.
for who? Less than 28, right?
It looks closest to you though.
Okay,
Right,
so-
you.
wait, hold on. So what are the status right now? We're legal or this?
Yeah, what is the status?
I don't know what happened. What happened,
All right,
man?
from
I just
20
been broke the law, man.
From 2017, it has been the case that it has been decriminalized. So
Right.
possession is decriminalized. So that is
So this is
perfectly
legal.
fine. Perfectly fine.
So nobody can
But
go for you.
decriminalize
Nobody can
mean
confirm.
that you could still tell
If it-
me that I can't have that on me.
No.
No,
The only thing I could tell you is you can't buy it.
I can't buy it.
And that is the legal absurdity that was created by the law in 2017. Like,
So if I
oh,
don't
you could
buy it,
have
you catch me,
so
okay,
just
but if I
drop-
don't buy it yet,
it
I
just
don't
dropped
buy
from
it.
Canapus. I mean, where did it fall from? How did you come into
Good lad,
possession
I'm
of this? You know?
Correct.
Man, he like, yeah.
So just to reiterate, he said that actually happened.
Happens.
Just to reiterate, we do not need a license to consume. We need a license to sell.
All right, so there you go. There's also a license for the consumer.
Okay.
Yes, you need to get a
What?
cannabis card. It's a recreational
Jason
card.
Willie King.
$50,
What?
and it will last you for 2 years.
Okay, we can $50 a
$50, yes. How much you pay for your license? For driving license, how much you pay for that?
Okay, I can ask my question then,
$50,
please.
okay.
I know you did, but I have one important
You go
question.
right ahead, darling.
A concern for the DERs.
No, you didn't laugh, but it's a serious
well,
concern.
first of all, the
It's a
DERs
serious
are
concern.
not allowed to be DERs.
That's the
Yes,
thing.
they are. We
I
have
am
to
upset
find a way.
because the DERs,
The same way
I'm
we have
afraid.
incorporated, and we will incorporate the social equity license, we have to incorporate the DERs. There's no way one government should
They
be
don't have the network.
competing. Yes, they don't have the network. They know who are the buyers. There's no way we should then be competing with them.
Right.
You know what I mean? They should be selling Belizean weed, not Mexican weed.
Correct.
So they have to be a part of this industry. They have to be. So it is just coming up with that structure. And so now that it has been legalized, we have to sit down with all the DERs.
I'm afraid, Ras, you're a part of this thing, right? But I say something. My issue is this.
All right, hold on.
That just like when you have rice-
Before we ask this question, we are asking in the second segment because we have been very enthusiastic about what we're talking about right now. And we have to take a short commercial break because we have to pay bills. We'll be right back.
Warning: the following contains content intended for older audiences and may contain strong language. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Taboo Talks. I'm your host, Drea. And this evening we were discussing what the legalization of marijuana will mean on the micro and macro level. Before the break, we were discussing how the small person will participate and benefit from legalization, specifically the DERs them, right?
Yes, the DERs.
We have the Minister of New Growth Industries with us to enlighten the talk, but we also have enthusiastic marijuana users here today to make the conversation real. So before we left, you were asking a question about where do the DERs come in play?
Yes.
Like how will they benefit and how can we keep what we already do? Because we already have a system, right?
Yes, we do.
Uh-huh.
So that's my question, and I'm glad that Russ is involved because we always talk about grade or, the quality of the marijuana that you're getting. And my concern is that, and I talk bad about nobody, but like, for example, with certain peanuts butter, I eat foreign peanuts butter because they have local peanut butter I don't like. They have one peanut butter locally.
They want it Lily parrot on it. Yeah.
I like that one they saw, but the rest are like so many greasy, all kind of things. So I'm saying, right now, it look like I eat foreign marijuana. I don't know the what. They're not necessarily foreign away, they're foreign in the States, but it's not local to us. I don't know. I never went to the door and said, where did you get this from? Or blah,
And
blah.
I lie to you and say the foreign.
They are foreign,
We don't know what foreign
so
means.
my question is this: how do we ensure that when we, the drugs don't get left out and that they're able to access, because they take pride in what they sell as well. You know what I mean?
Some do.
So name good the road.
The ones I know,
Yeah.
they
'Cause
take
you
pride.
only know good there.
I don't mess with no simple people. So that number one. So if they are of a certain, they have standards then, make us say this, right? How the standards and drop that all of this.
How
I would actually think the standards would
Will
get
go up.
better, yes,
I
of
think
course.
so, yeah. No, when it comes to we're back on it with the foreign weed and everything there. So why a lot of people want to say, all right, they want to gravitate toward it is because they cultivate it, they cross-pollinate it. This one, they got certain seeds and everything there, and they care up the THC content. So you roll one a little bit less. Yeah, make a little slim as and
This
still
a
get
question,
high.
no?
But make I tell you something though,
Hold on,
that
I get to
150
it.
compared to the 150
No,
for foreign and $50 to the bush weed, that
No,
one
but
big difference.
This is what they get to. No,
Right.
where he made a mention now, you have certain standards and anything there. So you know how they get no half a weed and anything there. Now, peanut butter now, you probably got on one or two of them, the people that produce it locally. Now think about, like we mentioned earlier, you have a lot of different farmers and anything there. So now if you don't know, you have any kind of competition and anything, you get certain standards and anything there, the average product standard one raise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it not be like the peanut butter thing. So to me, I think once we have the standards raised, you go back to where he said, they sell no Mexican weed and they sell local. So one, you not have no revenue leakage and you have one better product locally.
Right.
And obviously, one or two people now want to complain about the peanut butter, but how much people want to complain about the bad weed?
My last word for it will be this, right? I hope in a 2021 situation like how I build Chetomal soap powder. Because I had to buy soap powder from them before
That's
the
what we're doing currently.
So
Yeah, exactly.
So them the Chetomal
We're promoting their economy.
that might not happen.
Yeah,
but I hope
think,
not.
So you have to think about it like I remember specifically you mentioned that benefit we locally.
Yeah.
So like think I like one residual income industry then. You know what I mean?
A lot of people wouldn't believe if you tell them that Belize is like the mecca for chocolate. Like we are the
believe.
origin of chocolate in the world. Like really and truly. The birthplace of chocolate, I Belize.
Hershey's,
yes.
yeah.
When you go to Amsterdam, you're going to Hall of Fame, you know what you find? Belizean breeze. You find Belizean grown herb from the 80s.
Yeah.
It was
I
so
hear
good
about
that in a Hall of Fame, the Amsterdam, the strain where we had there in the 80s. So we have to think that we can do better than America, we can do better than Mexico.
So
we
we
have the
climate and also
terrain,
promote
the
it.
sunlight all day long. It's
Correct.
perfect.
Let me just clarify.
But going back to the DIR, no left the DIR.
Yeah, please.
Not left
And I
the
would
dirt.
want to change the name to salesmen and women. How about
All
the
right.
DIR? Or you want to keep DIR? We want to keep DIR. I like DIR too.
I like the hashtag.
Dirt
DIR.
shop.
Hashtag
I like
DIR.
that. I think
I love the
Saleswoman.
problem.
I think if you, I don't want like
Dirt.
official DIR, like
Yeah.
Dirt official, Dirt 2.0.
Yeah.
No, but
Even if
seriously.
just the code for that certain license would be one DIR license.
That would be nice.
Perfect.
Yes.
Marketing.
Right.
I like that. I like that. I like that.
But let me.
Is that what
since-
it is called in Jamaica and other places? I don't
No,
know. DIR?
they
But
call
for
it-
a Belizean term.
The Belizean term, because Dirt are for cards. You
Gotcha.
play
Dealer.
cards.
The dealer.
Dealer.
Dealer, yeah.
Dealer.
Okay, so
That like
let me
meme.
clarify, guys. Let me clarify. Make we
Yes.
You never know that? That like
Guys,
meme.
listen to me, man.
You're not saying that
I'm not too
meme, you're saying-
excited.
Teacher, sorry, teacher.
Listen to me, man. I'm not too excited.
Ruben, you got
Just make me
not
clarify
even,
it for
you
the
got
people.
meme, you got
Shush.
dealer and dirt.
Shush.
Literally.
Shush.
Shush.
So let's just like even playing field, right? Let's just clarify. So you need one license for everything, even consumption. You need a gold card. What?
Cannabis card.
Cannabis card, $50 for 2 years.
Yes. Tourists are $100.
Okay, that's my next question. So tourists need $100.
50 US. You have to convert it for them.
So we don't do that already automatically.
50-50.
So where do they purchase this?
They will have different outlets where you can purchase your card. So you'll take your picture, just like you're going for a driver's license. We'll hopefully have one at the airport. When you arrive, you wait for your luggage, you go over there and you purchase your card right away. It is estimated that just on the cards alone, before we
That's so much
sell,
money to me already.
yeah, before we sell even 1 gram of cannabis, we could make $10 million.
Right.
Just off of the sale of cards.
exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
And then my next
Think
question.
about it,
'cause
1,000 and the 50,000.
I can't even match right now. You know where to go on, right?
when you drink too much wine, that's why you can't
That's
shut up.
exactly.
But okay, so 50 Belize for us, 50 US for them. So now my question is now economics, like financial. So I don't know if I have a skewed understanding, but it's when it comes to banking, right? Because I'm thinking about foreign investment when it comes to banking. How does this translate? Because if I'm correct, banks don't accept marijuana money or money that comes from marijuana. So how somebody where they come in here and like they invest, a foreign investor, how do they go about banking? Like how does that even work?
Yeah, it's not just Belize, it's all over the world that there's not this banking legislation in the US. It's called the Safe Banking Act. It hasn't been passed as yet. Every year you hear they're moving closer and closer to it. It is estimated that maybe not this year, but definitely by next year there will be the safe banking legislation. And so all that we're doing now is gearing up and getting ready for that day.
Okay.
So in the meantime, yes, it will have to be a cash industry, but that is only now. Everything to be put in place, to be quite frank and honest with you, I don't think we are getting a first crop of cannabis till like December. Everything has to be put in place first.
December this year?
December this year. And so there's a lot.
Christmas crop?
Yeah, there's a lot that actually has to go into creating this industry, because we're starting from scratch. And going back to what Sharon says and being skeptical about it, we have the perfect opportunity now to make it right. Every other industry that you've seen, you talk about the oil industry, every other thing that you saw, we have the opportunity to start from scratch and build up. And a lot of people think, oh my God, they passed the law, we can't change the law. No. The fact is we're now out of the gate where it's a legal industry, but we have to be very flexible. In America, every day they change the law, you know. Every day something else, because that is such a new industry. You have to be able to move with the time. You have to be able to change so that it suits your particular country.
Yeah.
And so I impress that on my colleagues in cabinet. Guys, this is not hard and fast. This has to be able to change.
Tell me about the windfall tax too now because for the oil. Tell me about that too. We know it about.
Yes.
But
Well,
the windfall tax
Listen,
needs
you
to
to bring
raise
in
up.
oil and peanut butter to this.
I
We
have
talk
to.
about weed.
Yeah, but that's the thing. This is a new industry, and I want to make sure that
But let me address your
when
concerns.
you have your tax, go
Let
ahead.
me address your concerns. So, there will be, in addition to GST, there will be a 10% tax at each stage of the way. So, cultivator, you'll pay 10% tax plus a GST, that 22.5% right off the bat. You carry to processing mean convert it to oil or what have you, you are paying a 10% tax. That done 22.5 plus 22.5, you have to help me, at some point with the maths.
Wait,
Don't go just now. Yes, you calculate.
Yeah,
And by the time you reach
calculate.
it, by the time you reach the dispensary, then you're the talk one next 22.5%. So by the time the consumer is purchasing, he is paying a 67.5. This man good. 67.5% tax the consumer will pay. Where does that money go? We created a special fund because the churches had very legitimate concerns. Again, we are a conservative society. We need a proper educational process in place. We have not spoken about all the medicinal benefits of this thing. Let's put out an education campaign.
Yes.
So 10% that you collect from each stage of the way will go into a special fund that 25% will be separated for the education campaign, for rehab programs. We don't have good rehab programs in Belize, so we have to set that up.
Nice.
It will go to free education for marginalized children who
Amen.
cannot
I like
afford
that.
who cannot afford education right now. So it will go to free education. It will go to sporting activities. So you know how everything usually go into one big dark hole, Yes, consolidated revenue fund. And you never see that money with the pay off debts. Well, we are creating a separate fund where 25% of all the revenue from our taxes will go to all these programs. So I think that addresses your concern that we are putting the money in programs that will help, that will benefit.
You know, I'd pay 100% tax if I know that
If you
the
knew
good
that.
Hold on,
and
though.
that then
Hold
people
on.
will
So
get.
how much a joint will cost me?
That way I want to.
And
It will
all I
still be
want to-
cheaper than we're paying now.
Ha ha ha.
Promise you that.
Yeah, be better quality, man.
Stop
And
it.
better quality
Better
because you know where
quality.
they
Who
eat
do
it.
work for?
I
You
had
know you
somebody
smoke right
like
now?
this, right? I
Make I hear how much THC you smoke. When they give us a run wrap weed, where you just smoke?
I don't know. I
Do
just
you know
smoke
what you're
Bush, Mexican, or somebody smuggle it and
You
you
don't know
catch
if it-
that. And I
like
feed
buy it for
CIA
bread,
for it.
so.
I said, I hope I get something good. No,
I
okay.
hope I get something good.
So Minister Kareem explained all of this to me, this fund, and I don't want to be devil's advocate, but we know we don't have a good track record when it comes to managing public funds, right? Who they manage this marijuana fund?
The Ministry of Finance. That's where the money will go for them to administer the programs. And so, yes, while the commission is charged with giving out licenses, at the end of the day, the revenue goes to government. It has to start at the Ministry of Finance, and then thereafter it funnels down to the different programs. So some of it will go to the Ministry of Youth and Sports for the sporting activities. Some of it will go to these NGOs that do rehab programs. It will have to go to them. So there are different agencies that it will be funneled down to, but the creation of the fund, it has to start somewhere, and it
Right.
starts at the Ministry of Finance.
Okay. So I want to ask the panelists a question, right, before we move on, because we have a lot of material here.
Yes, we do.
So
Cereal.
okay, so
Stop
looking
it.
at the numbers, do you all feel like you can't answer because you're the part of this thing? Do you feel like the economic benefits outweigh the perceived detrimental problems? Like, you know, how you were talking about the conservatives talking about, you know, rehab, maybe it's not good for society, etc. Do you feel like it's worth it? Like what we're doing is worth it?
Of
Really think about it, because I know we smoke with weed, right?
Well, let me reverse the question back to you.
Yeah,
If the bill did not pass,
I still man to smoke.
would that still be allowed to be there?
Yes.
I s-
Wait, what?
100%? How much the government make off of that today?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Right.
How much
So
picnic
while
was
it is, yes, the DER made something off of it, that's the only entity that made something off of it.
The Mexican.
Absolutely nothing. The Mexicans
The
tear up.
American, yeah.
So we could continue with this important nation mentality if we want, but the fact is that is legal. That is legal. So why not then regulate an industry where you have greater controls in place, greater monitoring in place? Children now can't have access to it because they need a card and they have for 21. Now anybody could smoke out there. I see anybody
what
smoke,
a
man. Yeah, you reached 21 already?
No, I am still 20.
So there are greater controls that come in place, but it really and truly was a legal absurdity to have something that is illegal
Right.
and the country benefits nothing from it.
Make a lot of sense.
So
Yeah.
what we're
Yeah,
working
yeah.
towards is essentially growing our economy, period.
exactly.
Taking
Because
something that we already do and making it work for us.
I listen to the Senate, right? And, I hear their concerns, and I've always been very open, and all the changes that we've made is as a result of our engagement with the social partners to get their input. And so, and I listened to the last straw that they said, let's have a referendum. Now, not only is a referendum costly, but again, if we do a referendum, and the people say no, which they wouldn't, they would say yes, you could poll anybody.
Right.
If they say
People
no,
who want to vote yes, probably.
what that mean
And
for
not
that?
let them
Again,
vote.
you ask the question, what does that mean for what we currently have? Is
Yeah.
it now illegal again?
Yeah.
Are we criminalizing weed again? Are we stepping backwards?
Yeah.
So if there was to be a referendum, it should have been 2017 when we said you can possess this thing.
Yeah.
That is when a referendum should have been.
Yeah. So like, okay, going back to this again, and I completely agree. Listen, anybody will watch me and tell me, oh, you're not business with that, that's the devil's lettuce.
From Canapus.
From kind of like, no, because I was a Ras tell me, come from heaven. So,
Constellations to be exact.
exactly. So that's not our issue. Like you said, like if there's a referendum,
Why the Belize close already?
listen, if there is a referendum, if there is a poll, of course, obviously, as a whole, I don't see anybody really, except for these very conservative entities, that would
that is
say anything
important,
about
but
it.
that is important. The church's position is important. In every society, you have to have that check and balance. And that is what the church's role is. And they have given me so much insight, so much input that I value. Because, you know, we had a original legislation. We consulted with them then, and we presented it, I think, in October last year, and we continued the dialogue with them. We had a meeting again before the Senate, so there were changes that keep going into the legislation. And like I said, it's not the end of it. We can change legislation next week if we want. We shouldn't look at it as something we can't change, you know?
Right. And I fully respect that, right? I would want to even go farther and say, okay, well, those are their religious beliefs, but there are
Other religions
as well, right?
Rastafari.
That would be hampered, that are hampered by their beliefs. So to me, that's a disparity. But what I want to go into is now that we also don't have the best track record when it comes to actually controlling or maintaining the law, right? Like, so we just say gold card. We just say what? Weed card?
Cannabis card.
Cannabis card. We just say, you know, license, blah, blah, blah. But like I said, where was stop the regular dir from give the rent a ras gal when they walk down Key Cocker, where stop he from just a hola babes.
There is nothing, Charlie laugh. There is
Where
nothing
stop-
to stop the illegal market. Let's start there. But if you have a choice as a consumer between a product that you see the label, that you see what percent THC is in it,
You will
sativa,
favor,
indica,
okay.
you know exactly what you're buying, as opposed to your favorite saran wrap weed, which one would you choose?
They wanted the pretty label.
Yes, the one with the pretty label. And the
that
one
mean-
that you didn't have to go...
But
in a
remember
sh-
then I rent a
the-
Ras
Yeah, but you
lady?
didn't have to go in a shady alley
I never
somewhere
hear
to
about it
purchase
before.
it.
I
What?
never hear about the renters.
Ask him about that.
I know, like, I think
You don't hear about that?
I
You
think
hear about
they
that?
say
Of
the
course.
cannabis
Of course.
card. You know, when you're younger and like you really enthusiastic for get your
You
first
want your
license.
driver's license.
Yeah, like I think people like take selfie with their cannabis card.
Well, I'll be the first one. I hope
Yes.
the Ministry of New Grown Industries hires me to be on the card. Like,
Yes,
yeah,
they do.
but
What I
I
want
just,
to let people know in the church though, before I continue. Sorry.
I have to drink my wine before. She said,
As you drink the wine.
As I drink the wine, I need the people in the church to understand that this tree grew naturally out of the ground. The church and the people who are opposed to it need to also understand that there are different aspects to marijuana that they have no idea about. This is the billion-dollar plant. You can actually use aspects of marijuana to build, to make construction, make cement,
clothes,
food.
The clothes expensive though. That's the big
I know.
That because of the
I know.
process
Very
now,
expensive.
but because of the process now,
How much?
but
22 point.
if you go to Australia, if you go to Australia, then use the plant
the tax,
to
but it's
make
still expensive for me.
more powerful than cement, whatever it's earthquake proof. You understand? So this is a miracle plant. And they have to understand that. Ask themselves, what God did do? What God did do? If God did make one plant where just to mess up people's life,
I'm
don't want
I'm a Christian
spiritual
myself.
thing.
And so
I find out.
I worry when the church is going on hard for me. I have to admit.
I feel like you're
Yeah, I feel like,
excommunicated.
man, I'm going to hell. But then when I hear in the Senate, the opposition supporter like, I'm not going to hell alone. All are going.
There's no hell. No, there's no hell.
But I, you know, it makes me reflect myself, and it made me go back into the Bible, and I cannot find a passage that says this plant is not to be consumed by man. You don't find it anywhere in the Bible being condemned the way other things are. And so it takes you back to the propaganda 100 years ago. Where did the propaganda
Reagan
start?
administration.
And where did this such a passionate belief about this plant, where did it originate, and how is it so still strong today in 2022? And like I say, I am predicting here on Taboo Talks, you could send me the recording 20 years from now, where this thing was there everywhere in the world in 20 years. Legal everywhere.
Well, I hope I just turned 25 then.
Oh, Lord. that was a good
Okay,
one.
So let me just plant the question. Get it? Plant the question. Let me just plant the question to the panelists, right? So what are your thoughts on the enforcement of this? Because I just asked both, like, you know, like he said that there's no way you could really crack down on it, right? And we're talking about
You
like,
can reduce it. I think it'll be reduced.
it'll be reduced. And you're talking about now records being expunged, etc. But you always have the rebellious person. You always have those people
Yes, of course.
that, you know, like they're just gonna leave like room in their house and, you know.
Well, speaking of which, you're allowed to grow 2 plants. You,
Oh,
Drea,
really?
can take home 2 plants and watch it grow.
Oh, no one come over.
Starting when?
Started, yeah, started when-
Soon. Coming soon.
2 plants.
All right. No, so okay. So like, and then one more question. So if I'm allowed 2 plants, I'm allowed to smoke if I pay $50
Yes.
for 2 years. I'm allowed to sell, distribute, plant, etc. with a license.
Yes.
Now, my question now is, how and why would, let's say, like a regular DER, and I'm going back to the DERs, why would they want to buy into this if, let's say, this one be $100 now, one joint will be $100? Because how much are they? What? 60? How much?
67.5%.
67%. So 67% is going to the government. What incentive you have for the others for say, okay?
A lot of the money that you're paying to Mexico right now is way over the cost price of what you're getting. So you actually pay $150 for something costing $10 to produce. Then they talk $140 profit. Then it clear up, then it clean up. And so, like I said, it is anticipated that the price will come down. Dispensaries and salesmen, and we could continue with the use of the word DER because we all like it.
Yeah, we like
but
it.
the salesmen and dispensaries will have that room to offer this product that is still going to be cheaper. There's still a lot of room for profit for them than importing Mexican weed. No doubt, though, the Mexicans now watch that pass by and not drop their
Just like
price.
when we like got at
So you say, oh, it costs
$10,
$10, then maybe say, well, $25 then. Then drop it for $150. So the price of that illegal importation will go down, will drop, because they want to knock us out. But we as Belizeans, the DERs, have to say, no man, this is our product. You know, we rather have our local economy grow than making Mexico grow. I know not everybody think like that. I understand that totally. But at the same time, I think that it will reduce the contraband because
Well,
people
what-
prefer
lovely.
packaging.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
But let's take a pause
Contraband.
right here for our final segment, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Warning: the following contains content intended for older audiences and may contain strong language. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Taboo Talks. I am Drea Renault, and this evening we have tried to take a deep dive in our discussion about the legalization of marijuana and the expected impact on society. There is still lots more to discuss on this topic, but we are almost out of time. So let me go around and get final thoughts from each of my panelists. So before we go, what do you want to tell the viewers? What do you think is the most important thing to put out there? Especially from what we've learned today, what Honorable Musa just told us, and what we personally feel like we're going to take away from this.
I guess I go first?
Yes,
All right,
ma'am.
well, I want us to, I really am glad that, first of all, this discussion is taking place and that we're more open about discussing certain things. I think in the recent past, it was taboo
Right.
to be discussing these things. Yeah, I finally get to say the word. And so I had my own personal journey where my children are grown now. The youngest is 19. But I had lost custody of my kids because of admitting to using marijuana and not really knowing my, my situation with it. But I like say, you put your clothes online, you put it out there, make people know what happened, and you have nothing to be fearful of or ashamed about. So my thing is, when it comes to this whole conversation of marijuana, I'm asking that we don't discriminate people. You might even know it, the lady will cook for you might smoke, the lady will wash for you might, the person who prepares your account, taxes, whatever. Your top person in your firm could be somebody who uses marijuana, is still functional. Don't look at marijuana users as just useless people. And then at the same time, it's good for us to keep our eye and our minds on this whole conversation that government is having, because it's going to impact us as well as our children and their children's children. It sounds boring, when I say it like that, but really let that sink in and know that you have a role to play in this whole conversation. Be active in it, be a part of it, and know that the world is changing and Belize can't be left behind. Make we be part of the change too, and make we see how we could benefit from it.
What do you have to say, Russ?
Well, I believe that I have an analogy about the law, right? Because the minister say a lot, right, that the law could change tomorrow. I'm a chef. So when you cook, if you first time you're going to cook something, you're going to try and make something, the first time you put these ingredients together, right, you might have an idea what you want to do, and you have a formula where you want to use, so you try it. When you try it, it come out how it come out, you taste it. And when you taste it, you might say, all right, I need to adjust this, I need to adjust that. Yeah. The fact that you make an effort and try, if it's even baking a cake, the fact that you take the effort and made the cake is the equivalent to making this law to us. We need to take the first step, the real first step. You understand? And because we don't want small place, right? And we have a small population, we could always retrofit things easier than one bigger place. So we could make it work. It's up to us now to give our input and make our contribution as individuals. You understand? The smoker, the person who want to grow it, the person who want to sell it. You understand? Even the big people that want to come in, they still need they still need people for partake in this industry. So this step we take, that one gigantic step, but that just like a baby when they first walk. If you fall down, you get up back, and then directly you run wrong. And even you as a big man sometimes fall down, hurt a knee, and you could fix it back. You understand? Because it's just that the life, as long as we live, life is made for living. Make we live it out, and make we be one nation of trendsetters. You understand? That we could grow one industry where the world have to respect. And if you don't notice, there's something going on in Belize. Everybody want to come here right now. So imagine if we have the best product for half of the people around the world that they could come partake and they could eventually get export. So we would want to grow the industry to the point where the planters, the people, they have the best of everything. And then we are getting the best, we are getting the most of it. You understand? Spiritually, physically, because of good food, and mentally, because we're in the best shape mentally. And economically, because we could fatten our pocket, just like what everybody is sick, because everybody does say no, that this could stabilize us and this could be so beneficial to us. But this has always been that way, you know, but it is time for us now as a country and not as individuals for gain, and that is the right thing, you know.
Thank you. Patrick?
All right, so first
ready?
of all, really hard to follow that one. I just want to clap and then like sign off, right? No, I think like I want to go back to my point where I made earlier, and I really think this is something where we need to be proactive about. We don't discuss all of the benefits, we discuss one lot of the technicalities with it, and like I said, historically we kind of the behind the thing. Time for me could just change up. I mean, and not only with the cannabis thing, just like with everything else, you know what I mean? One time for just kind of lead the pack with what we could do it, get ahead of the curve, and we could do it thing.
All right.
Your turn.
Closing remarks?
Yeah, you know, the past year has been like a real learning experience for me. You know, it's a new topic for me to even start considering as a minister. And new growth industries, by the way, they're not just cannabis, you know. Where they talk about Cahoon, where they talk about ostrich, where they talk about movie industry, where they talk about carry Belize to our next level with things where no mainstream. Yeah, we're new, you know, and sometimes it's taboo. Sometimes where we are present out of this ministry, we want to be taboo.
Yeah.
4 plugs for you. But, you know, when I first meet Ras 1 year ago, he could tell where my mind me there. I made it like, boy, legalization. I never did think about it economically, so to speak. I made it think about it like just the stigma and the discrimination, make we end that, then make this thing free for all. Like everybody could grow this thing. You know, and I had to learn over time that there are certain standards where the world is, and we have to be responsible. We have to be responsible not just to ourselves, to the churches, to the consumers, the tourists who will be coming to the country. And so my own personal mindset has changed because I'm a Belizean and I don't like rules neither. I mean, none of us do. We don't like get put in our box. We don't like they tell you have to wear a mask indoors or you have to wear a mask outdoors. We don't like that. We don't like restrictions, you know.
I like it.
Yeah. So, over
Belizean?
Don't worry about Sharon, she wore peanuts butter right now.
So over time, even personally, it's been an evolving experience for me. I want to thank everybody who has had the input, you know, when we had the discussion online, because there was a lockdown. Our first discussion was a town hall attended by like 500 people from all over the world. It was so amazing to see that. So this is a new, exciting opportunity concerning a very versatile plant, multifaceted in so many ways. We not even scratch the surface of what this plant can do. So in this lead discussion, we'll probably get cut down to an hour overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, there's so much more that needs discussion, and I like that we are taking it from taboo to now mainstream, that we can have these discussions out in the open. I'm very thankful to all those, like I said, that contributed to where we are in relation to this legislation. So, and thank you for having me on the show as well.
Thank you for coming. Well, my esteemed panelists, thank you so much for joining us on Taboo Talks tonight and sharing your opinions and perspectives on this trending and mainstream topic. I am sure that our viewers enjoy the diversity of views, even though all of us are enthusiasts. And Minister, I thank you especially for taking the time to sit with us, because this is very, very important. When we were talking about the premise of the show and the objective, it was really about making it a space where you can really and truly enjoy not only like our collective opinions, but the facts. Like, this is what we are doing. This is how we are moving forward, and this is how we are progressing. And yes, I like how what you talked about us, you know, moving forward with new things, and that new things sometimes, and change will always be taboo. Change will always be scary. But that's why we're here. That's why Taboo Talks is here, because the truth is the truth, and the facts are the facts, right?
Truth are the truth.
We truly appreciate your time and input, everybody. Thank you so, so, so much. And viewers, thank you for tuning in, and we hope you learned something from tonight's discussion as we all try to wrap our minds around the operational side of the legalization of marijuana and how it will impact society as a whole. With that, we are signing off for tonight and hope to have you back next Thursday at 9 p.m. on CBTV or on Facebook. If you still want to join in and talk more, because I know some people feel like, yeah, join me for After the Talk on my IG Live, where I will be linking up with Samantha Singh, founder of the nonprofit Legalize Belize, to review tonight's episode. Thank you so much for being here. Good night.
Taboo Talks is sponsored by Venatopia, Landshark Hard Seltzer, Design Depot, and Travelers Liquors.